In the heart of the French Riviera, where the Mediterranean whispers against the cliffs of Cannes, a secret unfolded that even the tabloids couldn't capture in full. Imagine a wedding so extravagant it blurred the lines between fairy tale and legend. The Château de La Croix de Gardes, a sprawling estate perched high above the sea, bathed in golden light and secrecy. Guests whispered of $1 million budget, of royalty, business moguls, and movie stars blending into the candlelit shadows. Yet the most shocking part of the evening wasn't the luxury, the diamonds, or the champagne flowing like water. It was the music. Because on that night, in a place already wrapped in mystery, Bruno Mars and the Hooligans appeared, not on the world's biggest stage, not in front of screaming arenas, but at a private celebration where only a few hundred souls bore witness. A performance so rare, so intimate, it feels almost like a myth whispered across the Riviera winds. What would bring Bruno Mars, one of America's greatest performers, to this secluded French chateau? How do you even begin to measure the weight of a moment where the man who conquered stadiums chose instead to play for love, for celebration, for something hidden away from the world's eyes? And what secrets does this performance carry? Secrets that tell us more about Bruno than we've ever known. Tonight, we're peeling back the layers of a story that feels too cinematic to be real, and yet it happened, quietly, in France. But before we uncover the twists that will change the way you see this moment forever, make sure you're subscribed, because you don't want to miss the rest of this journey. Hit like, drop a comment about your favorite Bruno Mars performance, and share this video with someone who still believes in the magic of music. Because this is where reality meets legend. Picture it now. The chateau, glowing under 1,000 lights, standing as a silent witness to history. Built in 1919, its walls have seen royalty, film legends, even served as the backdrop to Alfred Hitchcock's To Catch a Thief. But never before had its grand halls and manicured gardens been turned into a stage for one of America's most celebrated voices. On this night, Bruno Mars wasn't just an entertainer. He was a gift, a symbol, perhaps even a secret weapon in a celebration that cost more than most people could ever imagine. The French Riviera has always been a playground for the world's elite, but this wedding was not about indulgence alone. It was about making the impossible happen. And the impossible took the form of a Hawaiian-born superstar, his band of brothers known as the Hooligans, and a setlist that echoed across the Riviera like a secret anthem. But here's the twist: this performance wasn't just booked with money. It carried meaning, whispers of connections between America's cultural crown jewel and Europe's hidden dynasties. Some claim the groom's family had ties to old-world aristocracy, others whispered that it was an international business empire that pulled the strings. What we do know is this: Bruno Mars does not take private gigs lightly. His presence is rare, selective, and always intentional. So why here? Why now? And why this wedding? These are the questions that turn a performance into a mystery. When Bruno Mars stepped into the courtyard, flanked by the Hooligans, the energy shifted. Gone were the roaring crowds, the pyrotechnics, the giant LED walls. In their place was intimacy, an audience close enough to see the sweat on his brow, close enough to hear the unfiltered soul in his voice. He didn't just sing. He gave himself away. Treasure turned into more than a hit song. It became a blessing, a soundtrack to vows of eternal love. Just the Way You Are wasn't performed for millions watching through screens. It was whispered directly into the hearts of the bride and groom, a memory sealed forever in front of a handful of witnesses. For those lucky enough to stand in that courtyard, it wasn't a concert. It was a once-in-a-lifetime baptism of joy, and yet, beneath the beauty of the music, there was something haunting. An awareness that the world would never fully see this side of Bruno Mars, that such moments dissolve into legend because they exist outside the public eye. This is where the story turns. Because while fans across America stream his music billions of times, while arenas beg for tickets that sell out in minutes, Bruno chose this wedding. A private, secret stage, hidden away on French soil. Was it just money? Or was it something deeper, something personal, perhaps even symbolic? This is where the narrative deepens. Bruno Mars, the man who grew up in Honolulu playing in his family's band, who chased his dream to Los Angeles with little more than determination, who carved out his empire with songs that made the world dance, why does he keep returning to these intimate, secret performances? Is it his way of grounding himself, of remembering the roots of music beyond fame? Or is it the allure of mystery, of crafting moments so rare they border on myth? For now, the truth remains elusive. But what we know is that the French Riviera will never forget that night. As the fireworks lit up the sky, Bruno's voice rose above them all, echoing off the cliffs, carried across the sea. The bride cried. The groom held her close. And somewhere in the shadows, billionaires and royals looked on in awe, not because of their wealth, but because, for once, even money couldn't overshadow the raw, undeniable power of music. And here's the part that will stay with you. As Bruno Mars finished his final song, as the hooligans laid down their instruments, there was no encore, no screaming crowd begging for more. Just silence, heavy, filled with gratitude. A silence that meant the audience knew they had witnessed something unrepeatable. Something they could never buy again, no matter how much they tried. A silence that turned into applause not for a pop star, but for a man who gave them his soul, if only for a moment. And so, the legend grows. $1 million wedding in France. A chateau glowing like a jewel. A superstar who chose intimacy over spectacle. Bruno Mars and the Hooligans, forever woven into the history of a night that can never be repeated. And you, now, are part of that story. Because legends only survive when they're told, shared, passed down. Which is why, if you felt this journey the way we did, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe for more stories hidden behind the curtains of fame, like this one. Like this video, leave a comment telling us your favorite Bruno Mars song, and share this with someone who believes that music can still be magic. Because on that night in Cannes, in a chateau above the Riviera, Bruno Mars didn't just sing. He reminded the world, sometimes the greatest performances are the ones no one was meant to see. They say the French Riviera keeps its secrets well, but the whispers from that night refused to stay locked behind the gilded gates of the chateau. Stories drifted back across the Atlantic, almost like contraband tales carried in hushed tones, reaching fans in New York, Los Angeles, and beyond. The idea that Bruno Mars, the man who filled the biggest stadiums in America, had chosen to pour his voice into the marble courtyards of a private wedding in Cannes felt almost unbelievable. And yet, it wasn't the first time he blurred the line between public spectacle and private legend. He's known for disappearing into small venues, unannounced jam sessions, or deeply personal shows that remind him of why he fell in love with music in the first place. To understand this moment, you have to see Bruno not just as the superstar, but as the boy from Honolulu who once sang Elvis covers to tourists for pocket change. For him, intimacy has always been part of the magic, and that's where we leave this tale, a hidden chapter in the life of Bruno Mars, a secret performance that tells us more about the man than any chart statistic ever could. If you felt the pull of this story, if you believe music still has the power to create legends, then join us. Subscribe to this channel for more hidden stories, hit the like button to keep the rhythm alive, drop a comment about the Bruno Mars song that changed your life, and share this video with someone who needs to remember that magic still exists. Because on a night in Cannes, at a chateau above the sea, Bruno Mars didn't just perform. He reminded us that even in the shadows, music can light the world on fire.